So let's talk about what sort of has recently happened with our weather and put it together with what's going on in the Pacific Ocean so you can connect the dots. So this is a graphic. Here we are right here. And this is a map of ocean temperatures, sea surface temperatures. Anywhere you see orange or red, that means the water is relative to average warmer than average. Blue is colder than average. Does it mean it's a piping hot 90-degree bath water here? Doesn't. It just means that it's warmer than what it would be if we were to do averages. So notice South America. Here is the culprit for our last months of weather. We had the middle of March snowstorm, that big blizzard. We just had a pretty decent storm come through. We had a very dry January. We had a very dry February. Then what happened when we hit March? Boom, storms. Now March tends to be more stormy, but right here, see all this orange? This was blue when we started winter. But during the course of February and March, these warmer water temperatures have moved in. So this is the hot bathtub analogy. When this gets warm, we get water. When we get more water, we get more stormy. So notice that a large part of the Pacific right here is pretty warm. We got a patch of colder water here, but when I see this as a weather forecaster, I don't need to see computer models. I can look at this and say, we're going to have a stormy spring, and as long as we see this into May, which we probably will, that means we're probably not done with snow yet. I'm afraid to say. May not be till after Mother's Day before we're out of it. Does anybody remember 2012? Was it a wet year or a dry year? Take a look at that map. What color do you see? Blue. Cold. Look how cold the Pacific was, especially in this area right here. So yeah, there's some warmer water here. That was a very cold Pacific. The writing was on the wall. This was, from a long-term weather forecasting standpoint, shooting fish in a barrel. When the Pacific is this cold, Wyoming and Colorado, Idaho and Utah, Nevada and New Mexico are going to be dry, droughty. Also droughty will be Texas, Oklahoma. What was the price of hay that year? Do you remember? Does anybody remember? It was through the roof. $240 a ton. Okay? So as a gardener and as an entrepreneur, maybe someone in agriculture and business, if you know a La Nina is coming, especially a strong one, there'll be parts of the country that go droughty. Now, it's not always good news depending on where you are. I have to make this clear. If you live in North Dakota, guess what an El Nino does for you in North Dakota? It's drought. It's dry for North Dakota in an El Nino because we catch the water coming up from the south and they don't get much of it left over. A La Nina in North Dakota, in Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, is stormy and cold and wintry. Case in point, I told you we started this winter with a La Nina. Does anybody have any relatives that live in Minnesota or North Dakota? They have had a brutal winter. Brutal winter. So this winter has been especially hard because it's been a 1-2 punch. La Nina first, uppercut El Nino. And so it was made for a very dynamic winter season and made it very, very difficult. So now I'm going to go into where we are now, then a quick outlook on what I think the spring and summer is going to be like, and then I'll answer any questions that you have. This is the current snowpack as of this morning. The upper North Platte's at 115, lower North Platte's at 127. The Green River drainages are doing well. The Wind River's at 107. Jackson area, 113, 115 over Star Valley area. The only parts of Wyoming that have snowpack that's a little below average is up here, although after the last storm, the Black Hills shot up to almost 100% of normal. So we're going to have a lot of stream flow. We're going to have a lot of water going into our reservoirs. We're going to have a really good runoff. We just went through the coldest March since 1996. It was a very cold month, as we know. That cold March has kept a lot of snow in the mountains. So we have not even seen any runoff yet of any significance. Once it warms up, and I will tell you, I do think it's going to warm up by August. But once it does start to warm up, we're going to have a lot of water going into our creeks, rivers, and streams. So while you're hearing about all the flooding in the Midwest and all those problems there, we could have some flooding concerns in Wyoming as well for a different reason than what caused their flooding. Okay, here's your summer outlook for temperature. All I want you to recognize is where we are. Here's Wyoming. And all I want you to recognize is the blue shading and the orange and the pink shading. The blue shading covers Wyoming, the Intermountain West, all the way through here, which basically means for the 3-month period of June through August, the forecast is for temperatures to be a little bit below normal. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to have hot days. We will. It doesn't mean we'll have hot spells, but it does not look like a hot summer relative to average. It's going to be warmer in the Corn Belt, eastern part of the country. But one reason you have a cool summer is if you have a wet spring. If you have a wet spring, you have wet ground. If you have wet ground, it's evaporating back into the air and it's cooling the air off. So the summer right now looks to be good for a gardener. This doesn't mean we are going to have an early freeze come August or September or anything else like that. It just means we're going to be a little bit below average. Rainfall, I'm happy to report, looks really good as well. So for the same 3-month period, look at all the green across the United States. There's no drought signature anywhere in the continental United States for this summer at the moment. It's not to say that things can change and that will happen, but it does look like a lot of the country is going to have a decent summer. We just have to get through a really stormy spring and a cold spring before we get there. So the outlook is favorable. And a lot of this is based on the fact that the Pacific is warm. This is about as far as I can go. Because you know what the computer models say for the forecast for La Nina and El Nino is for next season? There's a 50% chance of each. Not kidding. And there's good reason for that. When the summer hits, the high sun angle on the equator really plays a lot of havoc on the ocean currents and ocean temperatures. We don't tend to see if we're going into an El Nino or La Nina really until the fall. But I'm pretty confident to say it's going to be a nice summer. Push come to shove, when I look at this and I say it's a little cooler than normal and wetter than normal, is the chance for hail higher? Yeah. But hail's a very, very localized situation. But for those of you who might be buying hail insurance or anything else, insurance up.